G'day all, welcome back to the G-Man Show. Today we're talking about tax. Tax in Australia more specifically. And this is a video by Chris Boy called The New Sugar Tax is Not So Sweet. And there's a bit going on currently at the federal level. You got Treasurer Chalmers talking about taxation reform. We have new taxes getting slipped through, and this is just one of them. So let's have a chat through this video. And if you want to go and support Chris, please go and check the link in the video description. Give him a view and like and all that stuff.
Hey guys, my name's Chris. I live in Australia, and lo and behold, another tax is coming to Australia in July. It's proposed to come through. It's called the SSB tax, the Sweetened Sugar Beverages tax. So what is this tax? This tax is going to apply across to all non-alcoholic beverages that have sugar in them, and it's going to increase the cost of them by 20%. Now, Australia has a government that campaigned through saying that, we want to lower taxes when we get in, that we want to help people in this cost of living crisis that we're going through. A government campaigned on that, and they got through. But now they're adding in more taxes.
What did you think was going to happen? No, I'm not a Liberal person, a Labor person. I don't believe in any of it. I have my own beliefs. But I definitely don't subscribe to any of the political parties in Australia. I don't know how he can seem surprised that more taxes are coming through. And this is a ridiculous tax. Like 20% extra cost to be put on top of, Coke and lemonade and all that sort of thing. They'll say that it is to improve health, so people don't buy those things, or that it's going to fund the health system, or whatever the spin is on it. But really, it's just a money grab. And I do find it entertaining when people are so surprised that more taxes are coming through. Oh, the government said through their campaign that they're here for the cost of living. It's a cost of living crisis. They're going to reduce tax. Who ever reduces taxes? Which government has ever reduced taxes? There's always more coming through. It's a death by 1,000 cuts for everybody. Oh, they're bringing this new tax. They campaigned and said they wouldn't do that. I don't recall them ever saying that, but I do recall them saying they're gonna help people who are battling, and they're gonna have a target on Australian cost of living. So what is this going to go and do? Well, for people who enjoy fizzy drinks or drinks with sugar in them, which is basically everything, you're going to be paying more for it. Yeah, awesome. That really helped the cost of living crisis. And I'll get people saying in the comments, well, just don't drink that stuff. It's all rubbish anyway. And, I do agree with you. But simple pleasures in life. Alcohol was taxed through the roof. Cigarettes. You got GST on just about everything. Payroll taxes for business. The list goes on. Property investors getting smashed. Be interesting to see what is next. And they are talking about a tax reform. Chalmers has come out and said that the current tax system is in the crosshairs. So what do you think is going to happen there? People are like, oh, that's great. They're going to change the tax so that we are burdened less as the working population and we can be more prosperous. No. They're going to work out ways to increase revenue. Well, the government is struggling. They're in debt. They're spending a lot of money. How does the government make money or get revenue? Tax. So it's like a business saying, yeah, we're going to lower the cost of all of our products. They're not. When a business is struggling, they try and diversify into something else. This is exactly what the government's doing, just diversifying their taxes and then trying to spin it off as it's for the better good, guys. It's for your health. We're looking after you. What a joke.
So they got through, they're adding in more taxes. And, Australia's already a country with plenty of taxes. We have a GST tax of 10%, which is on close to everything as a consumer you're buying. This extra 10% we're paying goes straight to the government. We have alcohol taxes, huge amounts of alcohol taxes on. Just as an idea, if you buy a bottle of vodka, Smirnoff vodka in Australia, it's 3 times more currency converted than buying it in America, so triple the price. Very expensive.
Same as for cigarettes. So I'll spend a bit of time in Europe, spend a bit of time in the States. A packet of cigarettes over in in Europe. Now, obviously, there are many different countries in Europe. I spent some time in Germany and Austria. €6 or €7 for a packet of Marlboros. It's about $12. Over in the States, they are a bit more expensive. Because I have a look at these things. I just like checking the prices and just seeing what the difference is. I was walking around the supermarkets looking at things. Some things are cheaper, some things are more expensive. But things like cigarettes and alcohol, far, far cheaper. Why? Because the government taxes all those things because they know that people are addicted to them. People are going to buy them regardless if they can. They'll just won't buy other things. Like cigarettes. Think about cigarettes here. What's a packet of, 25s cost you like $60? $60 for something that some people smoke a packet in a day. So I'm not saying, poor smokers, but if someone has a huge addiction, you're just being rorted by the government. I'd love to see what the actual makeup on a packet of cigarettes, so the actual profit that goes to the manufacturer, say Philip Morris or one of the other big companies, as opposed to how much tax goes to the government. I probably wouldn't be wrong in saying it'd have to be like 70% of that would go to the government. Just have a think about that. Same as alcohol. Alcohol's going up. Absolutely. You got a lot of pubs going under. Local pubs, because they got to charge $17 for a pint. The government doesn't care. They get their tax out of it, but these businesses, they struggle to operate. Either got to cut jobs, so that's one less opportunity for someone to make some money, or they close down. I know I'm ranting today, but I'm quite passionate about this because, once again, that comment that he said at the start is the sentiment of so many people. People just believe everything that they are told. Oh, well, we got Labor in. The cost of living's going to go down. They're really here for us. They're for the working man. They're for the people. And Liberal aren't. Liberal's all about big business. As I said, I don't side with any of them. But to think that one party has your better interest as a taxpayer in mind over another, it's pretty laughable, really, that people still believe this. The government's here to look after you and save you. You're more or less the working population. You are basically tax pigs, right? Just to have as much money pulled out of you as possible in your working life. Now they'll go after your super as well. Then they go after your inheritance taxes. There's going to be more and more of it. It's just going to get worse. People think it was going to get better. Guys, all right, inflation isn't increasing by as much anymore. Happy days, the war on inflation's over. Okay, let's just start taxing people more. It's incredible.
Expensive. Tobacco, heavily taxed on tobacco in Australia. For those that can still afford to smoke, 65% of the retail cost of cigarettes
there you go.
Or tobacco, 65% is government tax right now.
And what has the government done by having such exorbitant taxes on cigarettes? There's a huge black market. It's a big problem here in Victoria. I don't know if it's even a problem. People can go and get their smokes from the local tobacconist for $15 a packet. And the government's carrying on about that. But they can't stop it. That is just something they're not going to have the manpower to stop. So they've created this huge criminal enterprise. And there were some articles recently around, the tax on cigarettes isn't working because people are going to the black market. No shit. Why would people go, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing so that I can spend $60 on a packet of cigarettes when I can get basically the same thing, something that will curb my addiction, for $15. Like, why wouldn't you do that? No, I'm going to do the right thing, guys. I've got to pay my tax.
Which is, of course, has led to the black market firing up. Now, 1 in 7 cigarettes smoked in Australia are from the black market. So it's kind of opened up that whole caveat of things and problems with it. But yeah, there's taxes on everything. Then you've got income taxes, of course, just taxes on taxes on taxes in this country. Oh yeah, and a fuel excise tax. Did I mention that one? Now, fuel has got a government tax, which is pumping the cost up even further as well. Taxes on taxes on taxes. If you point a stick at it.
It'd be interesting to see, I know I'm stopping this one a bit, because we are talking quite a bit about the same topics here. I'm actually in agreement with Chris here, wholeheartedly at the moment, apart from the government's supposed to help you. I definitely don't agree with that. If you would think about every dollar you earn pre-tax, I'd love to see how much of that dollar, when you spend it or when you get it, how much of that goes to all these different taxes. I think that would shock a lot of people. I'd love to see that analysis.
There's probably a tax for it. So for a government that campaigned on lowering taxes and for helping the cost of living, but let's focus on lowering taxes. For a government that focused on lowering taxes on their campaign to get in, well, why are they adding in more taxes? Why are they adding in a tax on sugar-sweetened beverages? So all beverages that are non-alcoholic are going to have an extra 20% tax applied across to them. And that's on top of the GST tax that already applies across to these goods. So a 10% GST, then an extra 20% on sugar-sweetened beverages. So as
politicians are master at telling people what they want to hear. That's it. There are a lot of people out there hurting, a lot of people doing it tough, a lot of people really struggling to go through week to week because of the cost of living and rental and interest rates on mortgages and all this sort of stuff. And so they think that the government's going to help them. There you go, it's 30% now on drinks. I read an article, was it yesterday, I think it was, and one of the huge reforms they're doing and what they're spending a lot of money on is police cameras, so speed cameras and technologies to get more money out of people, more fines out of people. And the fines are going up through the floor. There's a new fine now that I read about. It's got something to do with if you don't go 40 kilometers next to an ambulance or a police car or something like that, that is pulled over, you can be fined $906. What? They're getting you started on the fine system. What, you run a red light? Sometimes it happens by accident, yes. Sometimes people try and beat the light and they get pinged. But sometimes these things happen. Like you just a millisecond on the wrong side of it. $500 or $450. I got pinged on a red light a few years ago now. It's like $450. That's probably half of the average salary because you ran a red light. Nah, it's for safety, guys. Give me a break.
Of the 1st of July, we're going to see a 20% increase across to things like soft drinks, things like fruit juice, energy drinks. We're going to see an increase in cost of energy drinks, cordial, chocolate milk. You know, your iced coffee in the morning, you grab yourself a pie and an iced coffee, and you set yourself up for the day. Well, you know what, that iced coffee can have an extra 20%.
Diet of champions, a coffee, an iced coffee and a pie. Yeah, great diet.
Cost on top of it now from this new SSB tax. Even your flavoured mineral waters or sports drink like a Powerade or something like that. You have a big night out on the beers and you think, God, I'd really like a Powerade this morning to get me back on my feet. Well, you know, the Powerade's going up, okay? It's 20% whacked on top of the cost of the Powerade. I don't recall, and help me recollect, guys, when the government was campaigning, did they talk about adding in this new tax? Did they talk about increasing all non-alcoholic beverages with sugar by 20%? Fruit juice, okay, your orange juice going up 20%, apple juice going up 20%, all your fruit juices going up 20%.
What was one of the other first things they did? That was the fire levy that was going to be put onto the rural, the farmers and that supply chain. Try to push that one through like instantly. Too much pushback from the community. Land taxes going through the roof for business owners who own commercial property and operate on them. So yeah, the government's there for you guys. I understand tax is required to maintain infrastructure, the health system, public education system, all that sort of stuff. I get it. And I'm going to get people in the comments saying that, and you'll end up like, I don't know, Saudi Arabia or something. If you don't have any money, you're screwed. I get that. But when does it go too far? I think it's gone way too far. Tax after tax after tax. To my understanding, I've been told this, I didn't do any research on it, so I could be wrong here. All right, this is just anecdotal. I'm just throwing out a Chris comment here. Um, when they were bringing in the GST, I thought the idea around the GST was that that would generate a lot more revenue for the government through the taxation, and therefore either income tax was going to be slashed or was going to be gone. That didn't happen, did it? It's just just the things that the people believe.
Remember the government saying this before they got in on the election? So I sure don't. I don't remember this being in their election promises. I remember them saying that they're going to reduce taxes, not add more taxes on.
Good on you, mate.
Kind of going a little bit backwards on what they were saying they were going to do. But from this new tax, over the first 2 years of this tax running, starting in July, unless someone absolutely blocks this one, but it looks like the government is hell-bent on taxing the Australian consumer even more. The working class of Australia getting more taxes applied to them. But it's going to raise, over the first 2 years, they're saying $1.4 billion in additional taxation revenue for them. And they're factoring in from the Parliamentary Budget Office, they're saying, well, we're expecting and forecasting from this that there will be a 20% reduction in people purchasing sugar-sweetened beverages. 20% reduction across the market, due to the price increase of 20% from the tax. So 80% of what's left is going to have that extra 20% on it, and the government's going to make $1.4 billion extra over the first 2 years from this. So the government campaign is saying...
That's a pittance for the government. They'll blow that. They'll come in one hand and straight out the other. Spending addicts. And I'm not trying to be overly critical here. I'm just telling it how it is. $1.4 billion over 2 years. Okay, they'll sign up to some new road upgrade or something like that. Boom, that's gone on just one thing. And I do the voice again and spend $500 million. I'll probably slip that one through, but you get my drift, guys. All that stuff blowing money with the Commonwealth Games and was it East West Link or something like that? And they cancelled that contract. I had to pay billions of dollars for something as a break clause for that big contract. This goes on. It's blowing cash.
And they're going to lower taxes, make things easier, lower, the costs of living in this country. But instead, going the other way, more taxes added in. The SSBs are increasing 20%. And over the 10-year projection from the Parliamentary Budget Office, 10 years, they say they're going to raise $6.6 billion from this. Now, of course, there's always a new government department spun up for these kind of things. So the government department that'll be running through this new tax and monitoring and enforcing it and doing whatever they want to do with it, that's going to cost $98 million of taxpayer funding over the next 10 years. Almost $100 million. It's $100 million for a department to increase the cost of sugary drinks for us. Tell me, make that make sense for me.
It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of bloat in the government. That's why Dutton shot himself in the foot, because he said he was going to slush the public service. And obviously he lost that for himself by saying things like that. He should have just done what this government's doing, is do things after the fact. Sell the dream. He was a bit too honest about what he wanted to do. Now, I'm not a Peter Dutton fanboy or anything like that. He lost that election. He had it in the bag. Well, he should have had it in the bag. But he wasn't overly likeable because, once again, he was going to threaten cushy jobs, work from home for government and stuff like that. And the opposition just grabbed onto that, rightfully so. Rightfully so. Well, maybe not rightfully so, but they're going to do it, and went on a campaign.
Paying money for us to pay more money. It doesn't make sense, but they're doing it. The government's doing it. And, they didn't campaign on this. They didn't tell us they were doing it. They're just doing it. So the tax only applies to non-alcoholic beverages that have sugar added into it.
Okay, so let's just play that back, because there's taxes on alcoholic drinks now. Unalcoholic drinks are taxed. What will be next? It'll be air tax, because I can't think of something else that isn't taxed. You've got GST on everything else. Oh, yeah, we're going to put a 50% tax on white bread because that has high carbohydrates. And we're doing that for you guys. we're going to put some more taxes on the farmer. Sorry, but that might, it's for the better of the economy, and your milk's going to go up 30%. But we're doing it to help you guys.
Now, chemical engineers and food processing engineers are already well ahead of this kind of curve. We've seen stuff like this happen over in the UK, and I think South Africa had a similar one go through as well. But chemical engineers and food processing engineers, they've got workarounds. Okay, so they can, instead of using sugar, they can add in artificial sweeteners, which bypasses this tax, because it's not sugar, it's chemically created in a lab to sweeten up the beverage for you. A couple of these kind of chemicals, I'll just read them out. So cyclamide, 30 times sweeter than sugar. Aspartame, 200 times sweeter than sugar. Asulfame potassium, 200 times sweeter than sugar, and sucralose, 600 times sweeter than sugar. So these are artificial sweeteners that they can put into these drinks, chemically created, lab manufactured, going into the drinks instead of sugar to bypass these new sugar-sweetened beverages laws and taxes that the government's putting in. Now, Harvard Health Publishing did a release summarising a report that came out in 2022. It was a study of 100,000 participants. And of these 100,000 participants, they were tracking across on artificial sweeteners, essentially. And out of these 100,000 participants, they found that artificial sweeteners led to 9% increase in cardiovascular diseases and up to an 18% increased risk of stroke. So currently, go have a read of the back of some of your favourite sugar-free beverages. Go have a read of the back and see how many sweeteners, artificial sweeteners, are added in to replace sugar from them. Maybe Coke Zero, go read the back of that. Any of the chemicals I mentioned there in that, maybe have a read. But that's what the government's incentivizing right now. They're incentivizing across for companies to pull out sugar and then to put artificial sweeteners and created chemically in labs into the drinks to bypass these laws.
Why wouldn't you? I guess as a business, I can understand it. You're gonna work it out. You're gonna work a way to get around the system. It's not about health. It's about revenue generation.
That's a byproduct of this. When governments make changes, companies do workarounds. Guys, if you can, once a week, just get outside, take a walk. That's what I do. I really enjoy it. It helps me decompress and wind down and get some perspective on life. Yeah, there we are. A little bit of positivity in the videos for once. Now, I'm not going to say that artificial sweeteners are healthy or not healthy. You know why? Because I'm not a doctor, not a health expert, okay? But what I do know is that this changes across to the sugar tax, this sugar-sweetened SSB tax, is a punch in the guts for our farmers in Bundaberg, our cane farmers out there. Well, they're going to see a reduction in the need for sugar, a reduction in the sales. They're going to see a reduction, your Bundy ginger beer. Well, that's going to get hit with this tax, isn't it? It's got sugar in it. So, yeah, the cane farmers, punch in the guts to our cane farmers in Bundaberg. All right, they're going to cop it here. Hasn't our government done enough flogging the farmers of this country? Look what they did in Victoria, the state government. I did a video on it not too long ago. Go watch it if you don't know, but they're just flogging our farmers. They're cane farmers this time. There's always one group that this government's just absolutely flogging down. This time it's the entire Australian public, but also secondary impacts, cane farmers, all right, sugar farmers in this country. Parliamentary Budget Board's forecasting a 20% reduction across, but the other 80%, of course, guys, as I mentioned before, is going to have that extra 20% tax. Now, this extra 20% tax doesn't help the consumer, us, doesn't help the retailer, doesn't help the manufacturer, doesn't help the farmer, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. Think about all the way back to the supply chain. So people will say, oh, okay, Coca-Cola, Amatil, or whoever owns Coca-Cola now. I can't keep up with it, with all the transactions that happen. Oh, poor them. They're only going to make billions and trillions of dollars a year. Who cares? Well, number one, they're just going to increase the price. They're not going to absorb it. Number two, you've got your people that at the very start of that supply chain who are cultivating that sugar cane. They're going to see a drop in a demand for their livelihood. So once again, it'll be the small guy that misses out. But apparently this government's all for the working people. They're all for the farmers. I don't know, guys. If you just kind of see what's going on here and question it, and just shake your head, because we're on a path now. We've got another 3 years of this. In my honest opinion, I believe things are going to get worse for the average person over the next few years. I think there'll be a lot of damage done that won't be able to be undone for generations. Think about all these people who come up with these ideas in government and policies. Majority of them, they're not business people. They've never run a business or worked in really a commerce field. They've been lifelong politicians or policymakers or public servants. Like, they just don't understand the impacts. And if they do, they don't care.
The person that helps is the government. They're just helping themselves to our pockets. There's an extra tax added on. And keep in mind, there was already 10% GST on this. Now there's an extra 20% on top. 30% of taxes on your drinks, your non-alcoholic beverages. They've already taxed alcohol to the absolute shithouse in this country. Now they're coming for the non-alcoholic sweet drinks. Orange juice.
Okay, then they're going to have tax on unrealised capital gains. And people say, oh, well, that's only for people with over $3 million and poor them, and they deserve to get taxed and blah, 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 right? The standard sort of response. That's not going to be indexed. There are no plans to index it at this point in time. So in every single year, that threshold of people who are going to be able to achieve that 3 million and start getting pinged increases. It's an attack slowly. It starts at the top. That's how they get it through. They say, well, it's only 0.5% of the population. Nothing to see here. Yeah, in 20, 30 years' time, it's half the population because of inflation. And they're not indexing it. Why aren't they indexing it? Have a think about that. Once again, same as the tax bracketing on incomes. Right? The top tax bracket. That's barely moved in a very long time. More and more people, due to inflation, are now achieving that $190,000. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good wage. It's a very good wage, but that isn't FU money like it used to be, and only a very few very successful people made that. The rich, I guess people would call them. A lot of people achieve that income, and so they're paying 45% or 47% or something ridiculous like that on every dollar they earn over 190K. I do fear for what will happen. And when I say fear, it isn't a deep instilled fear, but you just got to shake your head at just how much Australia has changed over the last few decades. It just wasn't, in my opinion, like this. The vibe of it, like, you're constantly under attack. Now, that might be because back then I was a young adult, and now I'm an adult who's been working for decades. But it felt I didn't feel it was a real situation that if you were really good with your money, and you can still do it, but less and less people can. Like, you got to make more and more money, and you got to make a lot more cuts than what you used to. You could have a home, you could have a retirement. You weren't going to have to be overly frugal all the time. Some people like being frugal, myself included, but you're not going to have to be forced to watch every single dollar. You got electricity prices through the roof. People probably aren't even putting on lights in the house, putting on candles. Some people are struggling, not even heating the house, using the central heating or the split system because it's just too expensive. And so you got a real big attack on the middle class, and the working class is just going to get wiped out. Like, it's just the working poor now. It isn't the working class, it's the working poor. And so you go to work, you bust your gut, you'd think that you could maybe have somewhere to live and you can warm your house up in winter. I know this sounds like an extreme thing, and it might sound like a bit of a bleeding heart. Well, guys, I came from a working class background. So I do empathise with everybody. And I'm not some rich guy, I play middle class. And I'm really feeling the impacts of this. That's why I make these videos a lot of the time. I watch these videos about tax and all this sort of thing. It just sets me off. I just have to make a video about it. I'm sure a lot of you guys and girls watching at home feel the same. Like, when's it going to stop? Never. It's just, there's going to be more. And we have more and more migration. That's more and more taxpayers. But due to more and more migration, there's going to have to be a lot more infrastructure development. I know it's quieting down quite a bit in Victoria for now, but there'll be more. What is that? That's, $10 billion, $5 billion here, there. Where does that get funded? There's always an insatiable appetite for more money.
It's already $5 a bottle right now, depending where you shop, but $5 a bottle for orange juice, call it. It's going to go up 20% overnight, an extra $1 for a bottle of orange juice. Now, you tell me, how does that help families? give their kids a healthy breakfast in the morning. How is that helping in this cost of living crisis? How is making breakfast more expensive helping this country right now? And tell me this, help me understand, how does $6.6 billion being raised from the government over this tax over the next 10 years?
No. But not being raised, being extorted out of people. Yeah, sure, you can say don't buy things, but everything's got sugar in it. Don't kid yourself, it's just Coke and Pepsi. Juice and milk and everything, there's all sugars in them. It isn't tax being raised. It's being pulled out of your fingertips. It's being pulled out of your bank. You're basically being garnished on everything that you buy. Tax after tax.
6.6 billion. How does that make a difference? How does it shift the needle one iota when this government over the next 10 years is going to get another $500 billion in debt? The debt's going to move up to 1.5 trillion over the next 10 years. And they're not cutting back. They're not reviewing anything to cut anything out. They're not managing their spending. They're just borrowing more and more and more and absolutely obliterating our dollar in this country.
You tell them,
Chris.
To pay.
So tell me, what is increasing the price on sugary drinks? What?
That's it, Chris on here screaming about housing affordability. He's not wrong. But no, he's like, the government's not here to help. He's working it out. He feels betrayed. He believed them. How are they going to make properties cheaper? How are they going to make getting into the market easier? How are they going to make the cost of living crisis? We've got a cost of living crisis. No, we don't. This is the new normal. It isn't a crisis. A crisis is something that comes and goes. We've been under attack with all this sort of stuff for the last 5 years. And quite frankly, it's here to stay. It isn't winding back. The economy is in shambles. We've got some pretty bad times to come. I hate to be negative, but I've seen it a lot. And I've made quite a number of videos recently on people losing jobs, redundancies and things like that. That is just pretty widespread. It doesn't get reported on a lot because they're saying, no, unemployment numbers are here are really good. Everything's going great. We've had marginal growth in GDP, but we're still ticking along. Nothing to see here, no recession. It's really different out there in reality for a lot of people. Some people, as always, will never see it or feel it because they might be in jobs that aren't under threat, like public servant jobs. How often do you hear about public servants being made redundant? But all these big companies are struggling. Not even big companies, and companies of all sizes are struggling, and they're laying off a lot of workers. So what do we do to help that? We just add more tax. More tax to companies. That means more costs they've got to cut. More small businesses have got to cut people, or not even operate. There's no real thought. It's just, we get money out of it. Let's not think about the trickle-on effects to everybody else, every other single person. I know I'm being a boomer. I'm yelling at the sky. I'm yelling at the clouds. I've had a gutful of it too. That's as Chris is saying. He's got a gutful and he's had enough and all that. Yeah, he's not wrong. I think a lot of people are feeling that way.
What's the point of doing it when they're just going to absolutely obliterate $6.6 billion versus $500 billion in extra spending from them, in debt? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? It's all just more strain for no gain. But, tell me in the comments, answer in the comments below. Do you think the juice is worth the squeeze? Did you even know about this 20% tax before the election? Did they campaign on it? Did I miss something here? Why is this government making things so much more expensive? Why are they putting this extra strain on people, on families, on everyone? This cost of living crisis, more taxes. There's more taxes coming on, piling up, going on. How is it right? There's something wrong here. There's something wrong in this country. And you know what? They're gonna borrow another $500 billion over the next 10 years, and they turn around and say, well, you know what? We raised $6.6 billion from taxing the consumers more on sugar drinks. Stupid, guys. Absolutely stupid. This government is so disconnected. They have no idea where they're going, no concept of what they're doing, no vision for the future of this country. Anyway, guys.
But I'd like to see, as I said, all these things that are happening in this country, right? So he comes across as a massive whinger, and I've made a few videos where I disagree with him. I probably can't disagree with him too much on that, apart from, as I said, blindly believing what you're told, having hope in government. As I said, it's not a critique. I'm not attacking government. Just think about, when has the government really ever helped people? And when has it ever reduced taxes across the board, made life easier? Prices of everything's going up. Taxes are going up. It's a new normal. That's it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you made it to the end, let me know. And once again, go and check out Chris if you want to watch his video without me interjecting. Thank you.